TLN is all about uniting cultures, and what better way to do that than through food? Today we're talking to Chef Sang Kim, who is making a kimchi taco recipe that connects his Korean background and his love for Mexican food. Thank you, Sang, for joining us. Now, talk to us about the idea behind this recipe.
You know what, Camila? Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to share with you a love story and how that led to my love of tacos, of course. And the love story is very, very simple. High school, rejected by a very, very beautiful young Mexican young lady who went to my school. And I was very persistent, of course. And she shared with me only really one thing, and that was her love of Mexican cuisine. And the beautiful thing about Latino cuisine and Korean is that there's a shared, real love of food and family.
I want to know, how easy is this for people to prepare at home, everyone who's following along? Would you say this is beginner level, or do we have to have a little bit more experience in the kitchen?
Well, you know what? The thing about the kimchi part, because I'm an expert in kimchi, I'm not a big expert in tacos. So I go to some of my favorite places to buy my tortillas, and of course you're looking at classic Caribbean type of taco making, which includes things like tomatoes and mango, of course, some parsley, pork with some a bit of spicing, and of course avocado. You can't have tacos without avocado, without guac, and without jalapenos. But what I've done is I've prepared my own kimchi. This is a 3-week ferment, right?
If you want to make tacos quickly, you've got to wait the 3 weeks to make these ones, but they're going to be worth it.
And if you wanted something more fresher or crisper, like a nice little slap in the back, then you don't have to ferment it for so long. People will just, after 5 days of jarring it, putting it in a ceramic jar, and then putting it in the fridge for a couple of days, you'll have fresh kimchi.
It would be interesting to try your 3-week one. And definitely, I think it would be great if you could share the recipe as well with our viewers. But
Absolutely.
before we get into that, there's another story about your family that I thought was really interesting, and it's a connection that your father actually has with Mexico. So these kimchi tacos, it's not a coincidence. There's a lot of connection, a lot of personal story there.
Yeah.
So what was that?
My father was really pursued out of the country. This was at a time when Korea was undergoing huge transformations from a third world country to one where it was really focused on economic growth, but that came at a great cost to human rights. And my father wrote against the government about these things. And so there were some assassination attempts on his life and things like that. And then he fled, sought asylum in America, and then years later brought the rest of the family over. And what he did was he traveled around the world where these persecuted Koreans fled, but didn't go to Europe, didn't go to North America, but went to countries where it's not known for to have Korean communities. And so one of the places he went was in the northeast of Mexico. My father needed a translator because nobody spoke Korean and he doesn't speak Spanish. But he was incredibly moved because, of course, that story ties in very much with his own story of persecution and exile as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other link. And he's always loved Mexican food. You know, he just recently passed away, but one of the things that he wanted to eat while he was in palliative care was tacos.
So this is definitely an ode to your father, an ode to young love, and I would love for you to share this recipe with us.
I would absolutely love to. And I'm going to make one right now, right? Put one together, of course. Some ground pork. Let's put some mango tomato salsa on top. Always need a jalapeno.
You put a whole full jalapeno in there.
Oh yeah. I'm Korean.
That looks incredible.
Very good.
So
I'll send you the recipe.
Yes, of course, and we'll post the recipe on TLN as well, so everyone can make their kimchi tacos. Everyone can make the comfort food Because like you said about your dad, I think at the end of the day, nothing makes people happier than food and enjoying that. So it would be incredible.
Could you imagine one of the last things that he wanted? Almost like, when, the kind of questions that's always asked to people who are on, like, let's say, death row, or I don't want to get morbid about this. What's your last meal? And he asked for 3, and 2 of them were Korean and part of his childhood, and the third thing was tacos.
But I think that's the beautiful thing about North America as well, is that we all get to experience so many different cultures that none of us would imagine trying Korean food or trying Mexican food unless we went there. But right here,
And how is this possible? There you are, right? A Latina on camera speaking to a Korean, of course, only in a country like this.
thank you so much, Sang, for sharing this. And for everyone back home, if you want to know how to make this, make sure you go to tln.ca.